Gubbio is a town and commune in the far northeastern part of the Italian province of Perugia. It is located on the lowest slope of Mount Ingino, a small mountain of the Apennines. History: the city's origins are very ancient. The hills above the town were already occupied in the Bronze Age. As a cuvium, it was an important town of the ancient Umbrian people in pre-Roman times, made famous for the discovery there of the Gubbio tables in 1444, a set of bronze tablets that together constitute the largest surviving text in ancient Umbrian. After the Roman conquest in the 2nd century BC it kept its name as a Guvium. The city remained important, as attested by its Roman theatre, the second largest surviving in the world. Gubbio became very powerful in the beginning of the Middle Ages. The town sent 1,000 knights to fight in the First Crusade under the lead of Count Girolamo Gabrielli, and according to an undocumented local tradition, they were the first to penetrate into the Holy Sepulchre when the city was seized. The following centuries were quite turbulent, and Gubbio was engaged in wars against the surrounding towns of Umbria. One of these wars saw the miraculous intervention of its bishop, Saint Giorbaldo Baldacini, who secured Gubbio an overwhelming victory and a period of prosperity. In the struggles of Guelphs and Apennines, the Gabrieli, such as the Condottiero Counti de Gabrieli da Gubbio, were of the Guelph faction, supportive of the papacy. As Podesta of Florence, County exiled Dante Alighieri, ensuring his own lasting notoriety. In 1350 Giovanni Gabrieli, Count of Borgherve, a member of the most prominent noble family of Gubbio, seized communal power and became Lord of Gubbio. However, his rule was short, and he was forced to hand over the town to Cardinal Albornoz, representing the church. A few years later, Gabriele Gabrieli, Bishop of Gubbio, proclaimed himself again Lord of Gubbio. Betrayed by a group of noblemen which included many of his relatives, the bishop was forced to leave the town and seek refuge at his home castle at Cantiano. With the decline of the political prestige of the Gabrieli family, Gubbio was thereafter incorporated into the territories of the Montefeltro. Federico da Montefeltro rebuilt the ancient Palazzo Ducale, incorporating in it a studiolo vineyard with intarsia like his studiolo at Urbino. The maiolica industry at Gubbio reached its apogee in the first half of the 16th century, with metallic luster glazes imitating gold and copper. Gubbio became part of the Papal States in 1631, when the family della Rovere, to whom the Duchy of Urbino had been granted, was extinguished. In 1860 Gubbio was incorporated into the Kingdom of Italy along with the rest of the Papal States. Main sites. The historical centre of Gubbio has a decidedly medieval aspect. The town is austere in appearance because of the dark grey stone, narrow streets, and Gothic architecture. Many houses in central Gubbio date to the 14th and 15th centuries, and were originally the dwellings of wealthy merchants. They often have a second door fronting on the street, usually just a few inches from the main entrance. This secondary entrance is narrower, and a foot or so above the actual street level. This type of door is called a porta dei morti because it was proposed that they were used to remove the bodies of any who might have died inside the house. This is almost certainly false, but there is no agreement as to the purpose of the secondary doors. A more likely theory is that the door was used by the owners to protect themselves when opening to unknown persons, leaving them in a dominating position. Among most visited buildings and sites in the city are Roman Theatre. This ancient open-air theatre built in the 1st century BC using square blocks of local limestone. Traces of mosaic decoration have been found. Originally, the diameter of the cave was 70 meters, and could house up to 6,000 spectators. Roman Mausoleum. This mausoleum is sometimes said to be of Pomponius Graecinus, but on no satisfactory grounds. Palazzo dei Consoli, dating to the first half of the 14th century, this massive palace is now a museum housing the Gubbio tables. Palazzo and Tor Gabrieli, Duomo. This cathedral was built in the late 12th century. The most striking feature is the rose window in the four-section aid with, at its sides, the symbols of the evangelists, the eagle for St. John, the lion for St. Mark, the angel for St. Matthew and the ox for St. Luke. The interior has Latin cross plan with a single nave. The most precious art piece is the wooden Christ over the altar, of Umbrian school. Palazzo Ducale, the palace built from 1470 by Luciano Laurena or Francesco di Giorgio Martini for Federico da Montefeltro. Famous is the inner court, reminiscent of the Palazzo Ducale of Urbino. San Francesco, this church from the second half of the 13th century is the sole religious edifice in the city, having a nave with 2 aisles. The vaults are supported by octagonal pilasters. The frescoes in the left side date from the 15th century. Santa Maria Nuova, this is a typical Cistercian church of the 13th century. In the interior is a 14th century fresco portraying the so-called Madonna del Belvedere, by Ottaviano Nelli. It also has a work by Guido Palmarocchi. Also from the Cistercians is the convent of St. Augustine, with some frescoes by Nelli. Basilica of Sant'Ubaldo, with a nave and 4 aisles, is a sanctuary outside the city. Noteworthy are the marble altar and the great windows with episodes of the life of Saint Ubaldo, patron of Gubbio. The finely sculpted portals and the fragmentary frescoes give a hint of the magnificent 15th century decoration once boasted by the basilica. Museo County Gabrieli, this museum is housed in the Palazzo del Capitano del Popolo, which once belonged to the Gabrieli family. Vivian Gabriel Oriental Collection, this is a museum of Tibetan, Nepalese, Chinese and Indian art. The collection was donated to the municipality by Sir Edmund Vivian Gabriel, British colonial officer and adventurer, collateral descendant of the Gabrieli who were lords of Gubbio in the Middle Ages. Piazza S. Giovanni, this plaza is mentioned in documents as far back as the 12th century. The nearby Church of San Giovanni Plan, one nave only with 4 transversal arches supporting the pitched roof, was taken as a model for other Gubbio churches later on. San Domenico, once known as San Martino, Sant'Agostino, Santa Croce della Foce. Culture. Gubbio is home to the Corsa dei Ceri, a run held every year always on the 15th day of May, in which 3 teams, devoted to St. Ubaldo, S. Giorgio, and S. Antonio, run through throngs of cheering supporters, up much of the mountain from the main square in front of the Palazzo dei Consolati to the Basilica of St. Ubaldo, each team carrying a statue of their saint mounted on a wooden octagonal prism, similar to an hourglass shape 4 meters tall and weighing about 280 kilograms. The race has strong devotional, civic, and historical overtones and is one of the best-known folklore manifestations in Italy. The Ceri were chosen as the heraldic emblem on the coat of arms of Umbria as a modern administrative region. A celebration like the Corsa dei Ceri is held also in Jessup, Pennsylvania. In this small town the people carry out the same festivities as the residents of Gubbio do by racing the 3 statues through the streets during the Memorial Day weekend. This remains an important and sacred event in both towns. Gubbio was also one of the centers of production of the Italian pottery, during the Renaissance. The most important Italian potter of that period, Mastro Giorgio, was active in Gubbio during the early 16th century. The city is the setting for the popular story of Saint Francis and the Wolf of Gubbio, recorded in the medieval Fioretti di San Francesco. Frazioni. The frazioni of the commune of Gubbio are, Belvedere, Bissina, Branca, Burano, Camporeggiano, Carbonska, Casamorciaggio, Cipolito, Colomita, Colpalumbo, Ferratel, Loritu, Magrano, Marciana, Montletto, Montluiano, Nona, Paggiul, Petroia, Pontedarsi, Gio, San Benedetto Vecchio, San Marco, San Martino Ancol, Santa Cristina, Scritto, Cimenti, Spada, Torquato and Villa Magna. The Gubbio layer. Gubbio is also known among geologists and paleontologists as the discovery place of what was at first called the Gubbio layer, a sedimentary layer enriched in iridium that was exposed by a road cut outside of town. This thin, dark band of sediment marks the Cretaceous-Euro-Paleogen boundary, also known as the Ca-Euro-T boundary or Ca-Euro-PG boundary, between the Cretaceous and Paleogen geological periods about 66 million years ago, and was formed by falling debris from the gigantic meteor impact responsible for the mass extinction of the dinosaurs. Its iridium, a heavy metal rare on Earth's surface, is plentiful in extraterrestrial material such as comets and asteroids. It also contains small globules of glassy material called tektites, formed in the initial impact. Discovered at Gubbio, the Cretaceous-Euro-Paleogen boundary is also visible at many places all over the world. The characteristics of this boundary layer support the theory that a devastating meteorite impact, with accompanying ecological and climatic disturbance, was directly responsible for the Cretaceous-Euro-Paleogen extinction event. In fiction, one of the town's most celebrated citizens is the Wolf of Gubbio, who was converted to Christianity by Saint Francis of Assisi and whose legend is related in the 14th century Fioretti. In Hermann Hesse's novel Steppenwolf, the isolated and tormented protagonist, a namesake of the wolf, consoles himself at one point by recalling a scene that the author might have beheld during his travels. That slender cypress on the hill over Gubbio that, though split and riven by a fall of stone, yet held fast to life and put forth with its last resources a new sparse tuft at the top. The town is a backdrop in Antal Serb's novel Journey by Moonlight, as well as Daniel Solanov's Fr. Les Ports de Gubbio. Starting in 2000, the TV series Don Matteo has been shot on location in Gubbio, where the title character ministers to his parish while solving crimes. International relations. Twin towns sister cities Gubbio is twinned with. See also, Mount Ingino Christmas tree. References. Population data from Istat, Malone, CAT. SKF Stoddard, SKF Territory, Time and State. The Archaeological Development of the Gubbio Basin. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. Poultney, J. W. Bronze Tables of Iguvium 1959, the Gubbio Studiolo is reassembled in its entirety at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Federico's father, Guido Baldo da Montefeltro, and his daughter Agnese da Montefeltro were born in Gubbio. Hermann Hesse, Steppenwolf, Chapter 1. Sources: Malone, CAT. SKF Stoddard, SKF Territory, Time and State. The Archaeological Development of the Gubbio Basin. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. External links: official website, official site of the Festa dei Serie, Gubbio ed Associazione Ugbini nel Mondo website, Thayer's Gazetteer, Rugby Gubbio, official website, Paradox Place Gubbio photo pages, Spandi Oratory di Gubbio, Harris, W., R. Talbot, T. Elliott, S. Gillies. Places, 413,174 inches. Pleiades. Retrieved March 7, 2012. The Gubbio Studiolo and its Conservation, Volumes 1 and 2, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art Libraries, which contains material on Gubbio, period rooms in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art Libraries, which contains material on Gubbio.